talk about your company that you've co-founded, AR Wall. First of all, which is, if I'm correct, about it's a company that deals with augmented reality and versions of that. Can you explain to people what augmented reality is?
Absolutely. So we call ourselves an AR XR company, which basically means augmented reality and what they call extended reality, or some people call it mixed reality. And basically, what this means is we're combining live action elements in real time with CG elements. And it's different from traditional visual effects, which is entirely a time shifted process where you shoot and then you do the compositing at a later point. So we're not in that game. We're in the game of capturing it on set live, whether it's a live stream, a live broadcast, or live to tape type of scenario where you want to give the impression of a live broadcast. But the whole point is you walk away from set with the final shot, with the final pixel, and that's a fundamental shift in the way that people have been conceiving of virtual production, because I think when it comes to film and TV, prior to us coming onto the scene, most people's heads were at pre-visualization, which
Right.
means you hire the third floor who's worked on Star Wars and Avengers films, one of our sister companies that we love working with, and so you have a temporary composite which isn't even meant to be like a full like fully 100% tracked a composite. It's meant to be reminiscent and just to give the filmmakers on set like an idea of what it's going to be like. So that's not final pixel, and that's where real time graphics have been relegated in film and TV for quite some time, about 10 years. When we came on the scene in 2016, there was no solution that was fast enough to do like the window illusion and camera tracking the way that we did. There was some stuff for experientials. Unreal had something called VR Cluster, and then Barco had developed something for industrial use that used goggles with like big ping pong balls on them, that type of thing. But nobody had looked at how do you combine those experiential and industrial tools that were being developed for commercial purposes into the media industry so that you could actually get the CG in a realistic way sutured behind the live action actors and sets. So we saw that as our original challenge, and we actually accomplished that in 2017 and immediately signed a Netflix and NBC Universal project called Night Flyers, which was our first project. And to describe what we're up to here, basically what's happening is if you think of traditional rear projection, you have a giant screen. It's giving the sensation that the actor, the sets are in a location in which they're not actually. So in space or moving or in a forest or whatever the case may be. The problem with rear projection is as you transpose the camera, move the position of the camera, you begin to see the static rigidity of the 2D plate behind the actor and set where the rear projection screen is. And that's because obviously the illusion of parallax is broken, right? And the skew is not correct. The perspective is not correct. So what we realized was with the new real time, like the new advancements in immersive in VR and AR and that type of stuff that were happening in 2016, there would be an opportunity now to actually track the camera's position as it moved and update the vantage point onto the rear projection plate so that in under 41 milliseconds, the time that it takes for a shutter to open and close, we can actually update the background dynamically so that it always looks like you're looking into a deep window illusion, like a deep environment on that screen. So it's basically a way to combine traditional rear projection technology with new immersive tracking technology, and that's what our vision is.
So I can only imagine what someone like Stanley Kubrick would do with this if he was alive today, because he was one of the. I mean, rear projection been around forever,
Yeah,
but I think Stanley was one of the first to really take it to a whole other. Because I still remember 2001.
yeah.
It's flawless. I mean, you can't even tell that it's rear projection. Like,
Exactly.
it,
And actually that was our thesis statement when we were going out and getting initial clients and getting financing and everything like that, is we would show Wizard of Oz, actually. And
Mm-hmm.
if you, the Wizard of Oz tornado sequence, everybody can
Right.
kind of picture the spatial reality of that tornado, and then to sit down with an investor and tell them, look, everything here is rear projection, and look how real that looks, and we can come back to this perfection in compositing, and this is a proven technique for 100 years, that this is something that we can do in a successful way. And that's really how we got the ball rolling. It's because I think that was key to our company's success. We didn't come in and say, we're the new kids on the block and we've got the new stuff and these are the toys. No, we did it the opposite. We said, we have such amazing reverence for the traditional cinematic methods, and basically between 1990 and now is an aberration where everything's green, and we need to get right. That's kind of the way that we were pitching it. To be serious, like between 1990 and 2020, everything was green for like 30 years, and it was really
it was blue, then green.
Yeah, exactly. It's blue and then green, and we're gonna look back at this moment in history and be like, what the hell were they thinking? That's what they were doing before these types of real-time backdrops came on the scene, and they started shooting actual photons again, right? Not making fake virtual photons to bounce around everywhere. So, just kind of thinking about from a historical perspective, from a legacy perspective, what would be the next technology that comes around? And that's how really that we thought of it. And I think that we've been acknowledged in this space as people who, didn't try and come in and muscle our way in with some new tech, but really have reverence and respect for traditional cinema. And I think that's what we're all about.
So the first time I really, when AR came into my viewpoint, I'd heard about it, but again, because of early, like even in 2015, 2016, 17, it was still very early on, and the technology has grown so fast. I mean, it's insane how quickly the processing power is just, grown, that now you're able to do things like we're doing currently. But the first time I really kind of came into the zeitgeist was Mandalorian. When Mandalorian has really put it on the map. And really, would you agree? Like when you saw Mandalorian, it was like, oh, well, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely we were having conversations, and, technically we did the first one with Night Flyers about a year prior to Mandalorian coming out, is when we were doing our work. But absolutely, we had such a big splash with this LED backdrop stuff that when people saw Mandalorian and they saw what was happening, they got so excited. I mean, we just had an insane rush of interest from everyone in the industry. Most people honestly thought that we had done it because they didn't realize that a second team was capable of doing it, which is good for us because we got a lot of calls and everything like that.
Sure.
But that was massive. And it really put this type of real-time technology on the map, because you have, a guy like Jon Favreau backing this, talking about it, gushing about it, everything like that, and it makes the selling process a little bit easier, and it gets us further along on most projects than prior. So it helped a lot. It really made people see, like, you know what, I don't need to do a camera test, to see if it's viable anymore. I don't need to see any more footage. Like, I know it's viable. And now I just need to make sure that I'm working with the right team. So because we're one of the longest serving teams in this space, doing these LED backdrops, we've benefited a lot from the Mandalorian's big surge in interest in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw some of the behind the scenes of what was it, Night Flyers, I saw some stuff that you were doing on Night Flyers, and some of the, just sitting there watching a camera guy move the camera and then the background move with it. Your mouth drops. You're just like, what? But there's also another big benefit to that is the lighting. You're getting real-time lighting, which you don't get in a green screen, and that is something that you just can't replicate in post. And being a post guy, it's difficult. It's not difficult. It's nearly impossible to do it really well, where now you have reflections. You have lighting. Like if there's a sun out, the sun is hitting you. If there's night lights hitting you, night lights are hitting you.
And here's the thing. Here's what's funny. You wouldn't exactly know those benefits unless you'd actually had to go through the green screen compositing process
Hmm.
personally and go, oh wait, this doesn't work. Like this thing that should work isn't working. Like I need to recreate this entire lighting scheme and lighting conditions, or change it, and fake it or something like that. And really, until you run up to, what I would call like the dead end of what green screen is capable of, there's a certain point which you can't go any further, without really just, faking everything. Um, it's at that point that you realize, gosh, there's got to be a better way. And myself, working as a visual effects compositor for quite some time, I think thinking, is this what I'm going to be doing when I'm 65? Like, am I going to be sitting here keying out green and
Spill suppression. Yeah.
painting out noise, and like, is this what I'm going to be doing? And just having so much respect for those artists who, in my opinion, these artists who do high level feature film and TV work and do this green screen compositing, these are Da Vinci level artists that, like, we as a culture have basically said, like, you know what, just remove the rock from the background, okay? Just like
Right.
just like
We basically,
remove.
it's like having Leonardo da Vinci. Like, look, I know that you can do the Sistine Chapel, but just I need that rock killed out. That the wire over there. I need you to get rid of that
Yeah,
wire.
yeah, exactly. Like, can you get
You're absolutely right. You're
that's
absolutely right.
that's exactly how it feels. And like, and you'll be hanging around with these visual effects compositors, and they'll all be like painters, on their free time, and
I know these guys.
like
They're
just
amazing.
amazing work and stuff. And you're going, gosh, okay, is that what we're asking these people to do? And really just thinking, um, something is going to come along and it's going to be able to do this in an automated way. And what does that look like? And realizing that actually has to happen on set while the camera is rolling. If we can get a robotic compositor, to use the wrong term basically,
Hmm.
but make an automated compositor that actually composites the shot before the shutter opens and closes while you're shooting, then ultimately, that's going to be the right moment, and in order to complete the composite before it goes into the camera's lens. So that's really how, back up that entire process all the way onto set, and even actually before the frame is exposed. That's how we came up with this, and that was the original conception, just for, like, from a really basic standpoint, thinking of it that way.
So all right. So we see the technologies there, and now you use these giant LED backdrops, and how big? I mean, what's like? Do you use projectors? Do you actually use monitors? Do you do a combination of do? Is there like stitching of giant 80 or 150-inch monitors? How are you doing it?
Sure. So it's a technology that most people will be familiar with for concerts. So you imagine, the big Beyonce concerts. She's got those amazing LED screens behind her that are coordinated in motion, motion design, motion graphics with the tracks and songs and her performance and everything. So it's literally those same companies that are deploying the screens. There's a lot of great LED rental companies out there that we work with. And the difference is that the density, the pixel density of the screens is much tighter when you're working for film and TVs, because you want to avoid pixelation and moire,
Right. Yeah.
and
Right.
those types of issues that go along with it. So let's say, at a concert, you might have a pitch that's like 5.6 millimeter, which describes the distance between the LED diodes. But on film and TV, you might be increasing that by 8 times. So 8 times more pixels in the same, like, square inch, that type of thing. So what you end up with is basically kind of like the difference between SD and HD way back in the day, where you'll be looking from the same distance, but you'll just see it being much smoother. Really, the illusion of curves and everything is maintained. And so, like, what we've basically been looking at right now is about 1.5 millimeter pitch for these LEDs. They are built up like Legos. So, you build them one row, and then you build this next row, and then you build the next row until it's up to the size that you need. So we generally, the most common size that we're working at is about 24 by 10 feet or 24 by 12 feet for a screen. And then the largest that we've done for a commercial production is about 45 feet by 16 feet. And that was for night flyers.
That's huge.
That's the whole side. That's the whole side of a soundstage. Like an entire side of a soundstage is filled with a virtual world, and then that way you have the flexibility to put the sets and put the actors kind of anywhere in the stage and know that you're going to have that amazing backdrop.
Did you do a ceiling as well? Because I remember in Mandalorian they actually have that. It's like a dome almost.
Mm-hmm. So we didn't do a ceiling with LED panels. However, there was a full production lighting grid up there, where they were able to coordinate with the action on the screen to make sure that the lighting's coordinated, and that was done by hand. I think now, because that was way back in was that 2017, something like that.
Way back in
2017.
Trust me, I wish I was back in 2017. We're in 2020 currently.
Oh my gosh. So I think if we were to do it now, it would be there would be some automation. There'd be some DMX controlled lighting that would coordinate with the system, and we might be doing some interesting stuff with that very soon. And so that's generally the screen sizes that we're working at. We have worked with rear projection as well. Barco and Christie make some amazing projectors that I think would be perfectly suitable for film and TV. So it just requires to be frank, I like a better DP. You have to just be a DP that knows how to use rear projection. But you can get some really amazing looks. And one of the benefits is it doesn't have the moire and pixelation the way that you perceive on LED screens. So it can be really good for some scenarios.